This lesson show you how you can set up a form that's going to automatically trigger an event, and you can create an autoresponder with the user's selection, send out an email whenever they make that selection, tell you what was selected. It tracks it by default within the spreadsheet, and you can also see that it gets tracked automatically using the script into our spreadsheet. So we can run whatever code we need in order to accomplish what we want to do using the onFormSubmit event. And that's added in as a trigger, and I've also got the script here to set up the trigger. Let's go ahead and we're going to set up a brand new form, and this form is just going to be adding in content into our spreadsheet. So under Tools, Create New Form, and we're going to create this manually. You can also do it with AppScript, but it's really easy to create these manually. So whatever questions we want to ask, and then the option. And then we've got a bunch of options. So we can have option number 1, multiple choice, requiring an email from this form. And then the responses are going to be going into the sheets. So view in sheets. It's going to be adding it in within the form responses there within the sheet. And then we've got the settings. So we can make add in the responses, manage how the responses are collected. So collect email addresses, the responder input, send responders a copy of their response. That's also an option here within the forms. Allow response editing, limit of 1. So these are some of the options that you have when you've got your form. So once we're ready and once we've created it, we can go into the preview area, and this is going to show us the response. And let's just go through and we'll fill out the form. So just add in the email address. I'll select Apple and we submit. So then we go back to the sheet, and we can see we've got the responses here that are coming in for the form. So it's the onFormSubmit. We're going to pass in the event object, so that's all of the data values, the responses, and take that in as an object. So responses is coming in from the e values, so we can get the email address, and you might have to adjust this depending on where you've got the value of the email that's coming in. This is coming in as the responses array, and then we're adding and we're selecting the one with index value. Let's create a subject, and this can be anything. So just type in new entry in there, and then the message that we want to add. So this is going to be sending out an email address to whoever filled out that. And we can also update the message with the data that we had received. So let's do that, where we're going to loop through, and we want to get the items from the form. And we can do a loop where we can loop through, starting with item number 0, incrementing I by 1. That's going to be our loop. And then we take the message and we add to the message whatever we've got the value for items. And then we can add in whatever the user's response was using the index value plus 1 to get the response, and set it up as a new line within the email. So once we've constructed that, we can use the mail app to send the email that we've sent this over to the spreadsheet. Let's select the spreadsheet value. So using the spreadsheet object and then the spreadsheet app service, we can open by ID, or we can open the active spreadsheet, and this is the one we can write to. So you can also adjust this as needed if you want to write to another spreadsheet, and if we want to add it and update it into the sheet. So selecting the sheet, we can get the sheet by name and selecting the sheet, and I'll create a sheet called track. So this is where we're going to add, and then within the sheet object we can append the row. So append the row with the responses array. Setting up of the trigger, so we can set this trigger up running a function, and just call it set. And then we can add the trigger. You can also set the trigger manually. We're using script app and setting a new trigger, and the trigger is going to run the function on form submit that we just created, and it's running it for the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet is going to be the spreadsheet and getting the active spreadsheet, so getting whatever the active one is. And then we can just on form submit. So this is going to be the event that we're triggering, and then we just want to create that. So in case sometimes it doesn't always get the active form because that form is not always open, and we're going to open the form by its URL, and this is going to be whatever the URL is that we're editing. You can always get the URL when you go into Tools, Manage Form, and you could do the Edit Form. So this will give you the URL that you can use in the Open By URL. You can also open it by ID. And then within the items, we're going to just select the items that are within the form. And then go ahead, open up the form and submit the form data. And this should add in the form data that was submitted. It should also add it into the track spreadsheet. And we see that we've got the new email address, and it says which one we chose. So we need to adjust that, and we need to add it with the index value of 2 plus 2 in order to get banana. So it'll start with 0, 1, and 2, and that's where we want to get the user's response. So let's try that one more time, where we're getting the email address, selecting the orange, and let's go back to the inbox. And this time we should see that we've got the entry, and it should tell us which item was chosen, and that should also be tracked here within the tracking. Notice it tracks the time, the email address, and then it's also tracking that same information by default into the form responses sheet.